Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, said you have to have $5 million in the bank to survive the rest of your life no matter what happens. How real is this statement? We have a challenge with this broad-based statement because in and of itself, it becomes almost irrelevant to most Americans. Okay, why is that? Statistically speaking, only about 10% of Americans retire with over $1 million. Okay, so how do you feel if you're the other 90%? Now, that's tough because we have several clients that don't retire with $1 million and yet do fine in retirement. Okay, so there's a lot more to this statement that needs to be unwrapped. Let's start with some of the things that we do agree with regard to the statement. He mentions that you should build a business, okay? And yes, business can be a way of wealth accumulation over time, assuming you have the time and the wherewithal to make that happen. Now, please know that business and entrepreneurship is not for everyone, okay? There's a stat that shows that about 80% of small businesses fail in the first 3 to 5 years of existence. Okay, so it's not for everyone, but yes, business can be one of the lucrative ways to make money if it goes well for you. Okay, something else that he does mention is that you need to have an investor mindset. Yes, investing is another way to grow wealth. Okay, and he mentions dividend paying stocks. We would agree that those can be good, but we wouldn't just say blanket statement, you should only invest in dividend paying stocks. There's a lot more that goes to investing than just a blanket category of stocks over a lifetime. Economies change, companies change, etc. So you might want to use a financial advisor. That sounds like a biased statement, as I am one, okay, but you might want to consider some professional help if you're going to start investing your dollars to grow wealth. Something else that he mentions is you should ask for fair compensation. Totally agree with that, okay? With markets changing, you should always be looking to improve yourself, and companies aren't always aware of what is a fair market rate, as far as compensating employees. So you should always ask, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Asking for fair compensation for the work that you provide and the value that you bring to a company. He also mentions to invest early and save. We couldn't agree more with this. We actually agree that the younger you start, time is either your ally or your enemy. So the younger you start saving and investing, the higher probability and possibility you have of accumulating greater wealth, okay? And he also mentions avoiding uncalculated risks. So we agree for the most part, okay? In terms of, he mentions, Warren Buffett says, rule number one is never lose money. Well, yes, ideally, but when you invest, there's going to be volatility. So if you save, yes, savings, but savings may not get you to where you need to be as an investor. When you start a business, when you invest in markets, okay, all of this involves risk, including real estate. So there's going to be a fine line between never losing money and actually taking on some calculated risk to be able to grow your wealth. Now, we've said what we agree with in the statement for the most part, but there's some things that are hard for us to swallow, as would be for most people. Yes, please try to grow your assets to $5 million by the time you retire, but as I mentioned earlier, only about 10% of people actually achieve that, okay? Now, that being said, if you are in those 10%, we have clients that have retired with more than $5 million and still are facing challenges in making that money last, because there's several considerations when you retire. Amongst those are life expectancy. Well, that's a tough one because no one knows how long you're going to live, but it is a factor, okay? Another one is inflation. You can't control inflation, but inflation becomes a real issue in portfolios and lifestyle expenses, which leads to the third factor, which is your cost of living. How is housing? How's everything that food, things that are real in retirement affect your cash flow in retirement? And a big one is healthcare expenses, a big cost and expenditure for retirees. And then fifth is Social Security, if you believe you're going to get Social Security for the rest of your life. So these are several factors that all play into calculating how much you need. That being the case, some people, $5 million is more than enough. Some people, it's not enough, okay? But again, we have had several clients retire with less than $5 million that have lived perfectly fine because they've been able to have a lifestyle that fits them within their financial means. And one of the best ways to do this is to actually do a financial plan. I'll refer you to other videos where we run through analysis and explain what is Monte Carlos and simulations and projections in retirement. But a financial plan really lets you consider all these variables and apply that to your situation because, again, as the median assets saved at retirement is about $200,000 in this country. So it's a far cry from $5 million. Again, you should pursue it if you can, but most people will not be able to do that. And what does that mean for you in retirement? Okay, you can still have $900,000, $800,000, $500,000 and still live okay depending on your lifestyle, and a financial plan will help you manage that. Let's take a look at an example. One of the biggest savings vehicles in this country is a 401k plan, a retirement plan offered through your job, through your employer, okay? In this country, unfortunately, our savings rate is very low. It's usually in the single digits, 1 to 4 to 5%. Okay, so let's assume, or let's project that you can actually save 15% of your income. And let's look at an example of Jamie and Josh. Demographics. They are in their 30s, okay? They are married and they're looking to prioritize investing for retirement. Yes, at that young age. And they have about $45,000 in their 401k plans combined, okay? They have a household income of $140,000 and they decide they're gonna go from 5% savings in their retirement plan to 15% savings in their 401k plans. As you can see here, there's a huge difference between saving 5% to 15%, which seems logical, okay? But and I'll refer you again to the video that we did on Monte Carlo simulation. Here's an example of that. If they were only saving 5%, they would probably run out of money based on the lifestyle that they wanted to live. Okay, and you see that there's about a 41% probability of success if they kept it at 5%. But you see that probability of success bumps up if they are able to save, instead of $600 a month, $1,750 a month, which is at 15% a month. Again, circumstances vary, cash flows vary, but all this to say, a financial plan is a very useful tool to help you determine what makes sense for you and how you will be able to live in retirement successfully. So $5 million in savings, go for it. If you can, that's wonderful, but at the end of the day, let's get specific about your situation. Let's do a financial plan and see what makes sense and what is real for you. If this has been helpful, please like or subscribe on the button below so we can reach more people, and we hope to see you soon.